high school. I'm wondering if there's programming or planning for programming related to community building or restorative justice in a preventative fashion, even younger than high school. I mean, I think high school's important, but also starting from, you know, 3rd, 4th, 5th and up grades. Is there anything currently? And
I have not heard of anything, but I like the idea that that sort of information could be a part of the curriculum that helps students deal with conflict, and again, starting at the lower levels. I know Representative Barber, not Representative Barber, excuse me, I can see her face, but Representative Garbali, I know Representative Barber supports his bill in the legislature for criminal justice where there is a restorative justice component. If that were to come law, it sort of might give me the opportunity to say, well, if it's out there in our general community, well, how can we get that absorbed into our schools and maybe into our elementary schools? So I look forward to trying tackling that issue and getting individuals to help that process along.
Yeah,
yes.
I have a possible suggestion to float. Tufts has a committee called the Tufts Community Research, it's not council, TRCC. I used to be on it years ago, and what they do is promote research in the Tufts communities, their host communities. And Medford has always been sort of at the bottom of the barrel on getting those grants because people don't step forward. They would love to provide more funding to Medford, and this would be a great topic. How to increase diversity, what are the specific steps you need to take, some sort of research around that. So I don't remember when the applications are due, but if you're interested, I can follow up. And Alicia Hunt is on that committee.
Gotcha. I would love to do that. I love data. I love doing research. I love asking questions to get the data that help inform better decisions. So any opportunity to use Tufts to do some research for us, I'm all for it. Eileen?
I was going to suggest that you talk about the students who've joined the Human Rights Commission.
Oh, yes. Thank you for that. Eileen is so kind to remind me. She actually spends time in my diversity office as a senior person aiding me because technically I have no staff, but for the help I can find out in the community, so I appreciate her efforts.
Thank you.
But the Human Rights Commission numbers were down, that the way the ordinance is written, you can have 9 commissioners. Well, it slipped down to 5, and the commission had the idea, what could we possibly encourage high school students to be members of the commission? I read the rules and regulations. There didn't seem any reason why that couldn't happen. So they put the word out there, and there were about 8 or 9 students that wrote a little cover letter about how they felt that they could be good commissioners. The commission had actually a hard time debating one student over the other, but they were able to select 2 students. One, trying to make sure I pronounce her name. Najma Jama, who graduated Medford High School last year, is a Tufts freshman. She was brought on the commission, and she is fabulous. She's on the dean list, and so I'm like always trying to promote students when they're doing well. And Divyani Kirka, she is a senior at Medford High School, and she has come along, and I think they add a unique perspective to the commission. And one of my roles is to actually try and bring folks together so that they can operate and function and play an important role. And so far, they are doing well, and I believe it will be a program we can continue years after, that there will be some student component on the Human Rights Commission.
And they're also immigrants. And Najma is Muslim as well.
Steve?
I've got a couple points. One, I think, fairly straightforward, and the other might be a bit controversial. So the first one is, it's my understanding that both the school superintendent and the police chief are likely to retire this year.
Gonna happen.
Right, they're required to retire. So there are two opportunities to look at diversity, hiring people of color at the very top, which really
Right.
sends a very important message. I don't know what the civil service requirements are around the school superintendent or police chief. They may be different. I don't know, but just to name that as an opportunity.
Yes.
The other thing is, you know, a lot of folks have had good suggestions, and you've given a bunch about addressing the issues that you described in detail, using historic examples. I think we lived for 34 years in Cambridge, and I worked in Medford a bit in the early 1980s. And Medford had a reputation then of being a racist town, right? Among other things. And I probably unfair, I think the whole Boston region suffers from that problem, and many other places as well. Changing that notion of how folks view Medford, I think, would be critical to the achievement of your goals. There's lots of specific steps folks can take, as I mentioned, but there's also a long-term goal of really having people, from tough students to people looking to move here because of the job opportunities, etc., to look at Medford as a desirable community, and without a veneer of being an exclusive community. So given that, I'm wondering about the All Lives Matter banner. And I completely get that it's inappropriate to hang on a place that's a voting place. I'm there. But that sign to a lot of folks is offensive nonetheless. I'm a card-carrying member of the ACLU, so I think people have a right to put up signs at private establishments saying what they want as long as it isn't hate speech. Although some people feel that that's a hateful comment. And I'm wondering if there's a way to engage the people who defend that slogan of All Lives Matter, engage people in dialogue that will begin the important conversation that we've had a lot of difficulty. I've done a lot of work with Medford Conversations. We've had a lot of difficulty drawing people who don't have a racial justice frame or an economic justice frame to engage in these conversations across difference. And I'm wondering how we can make a bridge to have a discussion about that phrase. Because actually, I think all of us would agree all lives do matter, right? And I would like to have a conversation with folks that say, well, Black Lives Matter as well, and see where that goes. And so that's one idea that I don't know how to pursue it, but I would like to entertain the city considering it.
I think that's an important point, and it might be about process. I am always thinking about how can I move in the right direction. And Steve, thank you for bringing that point up about Medford Conversations. As in my position as staff for City Hall, as a department director, I have a great deal of flexibility about where I go, what organizations I interact with. I have taken on more leadership role this year in Medford Conversations because I believe that vehicle is probably one of the best means of finding a way to bring people together. And it's gonna take some time. It will take community leaders who others listen to say, being a part of Medford Conversations is something that's positive, something that is worthwhile to be a part of. Then those key individuals get involved themselves, and then they begin to share it with their colleagues, friends, and neighbors to say, hey, you missed it this year. We had a great conversation on at what cost in Medford. And it may take 3, 4 years, 5 years, but I am hopeful that this is one vehicle that brings people together to talk. there's even, I'll even piggyback, there's an opportunity to talk about the mural in Medford Square. When I heard people talking about doing something or finding some mechanism to explore what to do, and for those of you who haven't seen it, it is a depiction of a black man with chains on his legs while a white man is leaning back with some cornstalk, and it's the triangle between Medford and
Oh, this is at the post office.
Right.
Post office,
Right.
yes. So there's a huge mural that, when you walk in there, that you are confronted with. But the point I'm getting to, once I heard that there were folks that wanted to talk about it, I absolutely encouraged to say, hey, let's find like-minded folks to come together, because what they're really doing is they're learning to get along, they're learning to deal with differences, and there's no way they can have that conversation without talking about race. So I'm all for it.
If I may.
Yes.
I completely agree that it's important for like-minded folks to talk as well. There's a lot of work to do to sort of get on the same page, even for like-minded folks.
Yes.
I'm really thinking about unlike-minded folks, or whatever the people who don't think the same, who think quite differently.
Right.
There's a big divide,
Yes.
and that's really been widened a great deal in the last year because of Trump. So the mural is an interesting case, and I think I'm going to be a part helping out with a group of folks who want to figure out ways to talk about it. I'm wondering how we can get the people from the VFW to be part of that conversation, because that mural depicts history, and it does it in a way that some find offensive, but it's an important history of a major way this country created wealth, right, through the slave trade. And Medford, right, Medford had a big role in that, specific role in that, shipbuilding and the Royal House, et cetera, et cetera. So I know there are ideas, maybe you generated them, for high school students to perhaps become involved in that conversation about the mural and other kinds of things. I'm still pushing on how we get people in the room. One more incident, quickly, and Eileen will remember this. When the Conversations Project was just getting underway in 2016, we got the mayor to sort of issue a proclamation of support, which was very nice. The first conversation was about race and ethnicity. Then we went to the city council and we had a discussion, and we wanted them to support the mayor's proclamation and support the notion, which they did unanimously. But it was amazing to hear several councilors mention in the course of that discussion in the beginning of 2017 that they were unaware of any racial incidents in the city of Medford. There were 2 city councilors who said that at least on 2 occasions. I think there's a belief that among some folks who don't see what they don't want to see.
Right.
And I'm wondering also how we can get some of those city councilors who don't think that there's any problem, racial problems in the city or problems with immigrants, et cetera, to be part of these conversations.
It may take, I will certainly trying to be in that position of being a bridge and creating relationships, but it's the continual ask. It's when you're out there in conversation with them, you're at a meeting or something, you pull them and say, hey, you're gonna participate in the conversation, it's a great thing, I'm gonna participate, hope to see you there, counselor, hope to see you there, counselor. And I think they're astute enough to know that they want to be where voters are. And enough people mentioning it to them, enough emails, letters, will eventually get them to say that's in place that they need to be.
So that's as much our job as it is yours.
You got it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to suggest that we utilize our new cable TV station and maybe invite a a to talk, and maybe you could interview them or something like.
I'd like way to put me on the spot. Okay.
Or we'll do it together, But I think that's one way, that more people could be exposed, But But the thing is, some of those city councilors seem so intractable. I mean, you look around at any city council meeting and there's no immigrants, there's very few black people. I mean, but still they'll say, oh, we're a very, very welcoming city. There's no problem here. We're so welcoming. Well, if they're so welcoming, where is everybody? You know?
I wanted to trail back on what Steve started to say here. To understand racism in Medford is to stand on the receiving end of it. I'm an immigrant, born and raised in Haiti. Came here, I was 19 years old. I came here to go to South Bend for school. I have faced racism until recently, after 50 years in Medford, because of where I came from, because of my accent, because of the way I speak. I will never get rid of that accent because it saved my life defending this country. That's my label. I don't want to get rid of it. Now, the point we're trying to do is the fact, I think, Neil, I served as a member of the NAACP when Neil was president. Matter of fact, you became president at the time I was training. One of the things that intrigued me is the fact in Medford, we are afraid of talking about racism. Any community who can talk about it, okay, will never have a way to either accept it and learn how to live with it, never mind to get rid of it. That will never happen, okay? We have to remember that. Now, on a conversation, we end up our chapter with the diversity office. We're trying to put an MLK. I challenge everybody. We end up with the conversation that you're talking about. The conversation came at the end of Magdalene, beginning of Stephanie. The year we held the first large presentation, that was at the high school when she was swearing in 2 years ago. Right there, I was discriminated against by the same person I was working with on the conversation. Right there. We don't want to go into detail because people who knows me knows I can fight it. I can stand. If I can take a gun and go fight people, I can use my words and fight you too. So but 2 years later, instead of continuing the continuation of facing racism, we changed the topic. We changed the topic at the time where America, our community, every community in America are facing the danger of separation. We're on the verge of, we don't know who likes who, we don't know who wants who, we don't know who accepts who, okay? Most recently, we had our MLK this Monday. I was a member, I think I did what I had to do to make it happen. Okay, I worked on the